Okay, so I've been just listening how, on a policy aspect, there have been politicians, both Democrat and Republican, that just have fallen flat on their face over and over and over again. And it's like, how bad do you want to fuck up? Like, how badly do you want to just do nothing that would actually go ahead and promote any type of public safety whatsoever for your constituents? You know? I mean, you have the power to do something, but you choose not to because the only thing that matters is the money the corporations are giving you to go ahead and just work in their interest. All right? I've got a policy idea, just one policy idea, that this one policy idea could literally impact everyone in a positive way. All right? And ironically enough, it's one that could go ahead and impact positively the wallets of both the consumer and the manufacturer. All right? You ready for this? If the Department of Transportation, Department of Motor Vehicles would work together with, the, car manufacturers and everything, and set up a system to be able to easier self-govern, all right? Because understand, this would pretty much automate politicians out of the picture as far as needing to go ahead and, make public safety policy that would involve use of the roads, all right? It would also go ahead and majorly reduce drunk driving. It would also go ahead and majorly reduce the amount of, car crashes because of reckless driving. It would also go ahead and reduce the amount of money that needs to get paid out because of the factor of law enforcement going ahead and making wrongful driving under the influence or driving while impaired arrest. All right? When meantime, the person didn't fucking do it. It would also go ahead and reduce the amount of people that end up going ahead and having to pay a fucking speeding ticket that didn't fucking speed. All right? Ultimately, if from now going forward, car manufacturers were to go ahead and make breathalyzers that attach to the car standard issue rather than, a punishment, because of the person got into legal trouble because of the factor they got too many DWIs. And they were also, instead of having keyless entry for cars, go ahead and have it set up with a system where the car itself, yes, is keyless entry, but in order to actually start the car up, it were to use the same kind of security, slots, used for card entry to make sure that you're not driving without a license, to make sure that you're not, going ahead and using somebody else's license. All right. Biometric doubled with ID entry. All right. So that way you couldn't just go ahead and grab somebody else's driver's license. You put the driver's license in, you use the biometric. The biometric lines up with the, fingerprint that's actually on the license. The car will start. If you go ahead and try to put somebody else's license in, the car won't start. What else could that also prevent? It could also majorly reduce the amount of car thefts throughout the entirety of the country. So it seems like a multifaceted solution. So then, wait, that, ID, that license, yeah, it also has a chip in it that you get benefits directly, for being part of the program, because you got the choice to opt in if you choose to. And if you choose to, there should be an incentive program. With those incentives, it could actually go ahead and act as, like, for example, reduction in your bills, reduction in your car insurance premiums, especially because of the factor that it would reduce the amount of money that car insurance companies would end up having to go ahead and pay when an accident does end up happening. So the insurance companies will be fucking elated on that aspect, but as part of that, if the person, for example, has any kids, ultimately it shows on there, which could actually reduce child abduction. Oh, it's looking like there's a lot of solutions that this could end up going ahead and helping. Oh, wait, there's more. If the person is on a limited license, like for example, a learner's permit, if they go ahead and put that, ID with their biometrics in the car at a time that they're legally not allowed to drive, what'll happen? Oh, that ID automatically ejects itself out and the car won't start. And if you pretty much have that seize, engine option, that car will not start until either A, that person with that learner's permit ends up going ahead and, actually putting it in during the hours that they're legally allowed to drive. Or, a licensed adult ends up going ahead and, taking their driver's license and putting it in the car to allow it to start. And pretty much, decides, hey, all right, so we're going to go in the car. Because keep in mind, too, if somebody ends up going ahead and using their license just to go ahead and start the car for, somebody with only a learner's permit, and that person with the learner's permit ends up, going ahead and driving without that licensed driver, ultimately, the problem with that, they can't go ahead and just use somebody else's license without the biometric factor. And, yeah... So they can't just go ahead and pretend like, oh, I had permission to be able to drive outside of the times that I was legally allowed to drive. Because they don't have the second part of the authentication. But ultimately, if the person does end up going ahead and doing that, but does not actually choose to be in the car with the person, ultimately, that person that used their license and their biometrics to enable that person with the learner's permit to go ahead and break the rules of the learner's permit, then that, both people with the learner's permit as well as the license could end up getting in legal trouble. All right? With that tracker that ends up going ahead with the license, you have checkpoints on the road that ultimately you don't need to go ahead and have police with speed guns to go ahead and, clock if anybody's speeding or not. Alright? That'll happen automatically. That'll end up reducing the amount of money that needs to get spent on, basically having law enforcement post it out just to go ahead and see if somebody's driving recklessly. It could also go ahead and reduce the amount of money that ends up going ahead and getting spent on infrastructural damage, because ultimately, if anybody does end up going ahead and speeding because they don't know where those actual speed points are, they could pretty much really, really end up going ahead and getting hemorrhaging, because if they go ahead and decide, you know what, I'm going to do it anyway, if they cause any type of infrastructural damage, then they're financially on the hook for it. All right? So there's an idea. Doing that, the amount of motor vehicle accidents that could end up going ahead and getting reduced is astronomical. The reduction in rate of, deaths because of, impaired drivers would reduce on a level that you couldn't even fathom. All right? It would almost eliminate the problem thoroughly. Now, keep in mind, that would end up going ahead and putting, DWI lawyers out of business, but the factor that they make you financially hemorrhage to not even, be able to defend yourself in court, despite the factor that when you go ahead and tell them, it was assumed that I was driving drunk because I ended up going ahead and buying a bottle of alcohol, and the next day, I ended up going ahead and using a car, so they figured that because of the factor that I ended up buying alcohol within the same 24-hour period as I operated a motor vehicle, that you could automatically assume that there was drunk driving involved.